Robert got a raise on a Thursday in 1988. He was 28 years old. His salary went from $28,000 to $34,500, a raise of $6,000 a year, $500 a month more, before taxes, about $320 after. He called his mother. She said, "Congratulations." He went back to work. That evening, he did something that would define the next 3 decades of his financial life. And he did it without thinking about it very hard. He called his HR department and increased his 401k contribution by 3%. The extra money went directly into an index fund. He never saw it in his checking account. He never spent it. He never missed it. His apartment stayed the same. His car stayed the same. His Friday night habits stayed the same. To anyone watching from the outside, nothing changed. Lisa got a raise on a Tuesday in 2022. She was also 28 years old. Her salary went from $52,000 to $61,000, a raise of $9,000 a year, $750 a month more before taxes. She texted her 3 closest friends. They said, "Congratulations." One of them suggested they celebrate. Over the next 60 days, Lisa made a series of small, reasonable, individually justifiable decisions. She moved to a nicer apartment, the one she'd been watching on Zillow for 8 months, $420 more per month. She'd been meaning to move anyway. She deserved a space she actually loved. She upgraded her car lease. The old one was expiring. The new payment was $215 more per month. She needed reliable transportation. It made sense. She added 2 streaming services she'd been sharing passwords for. $28 a month. She started ordering food delivery twice a week instead of once. Another $80. She started saying yes to dinners she'd previously declined. Her clothing budget expanded quietly. By month 3, Lisa's monthly expenses had increased by approximately $780. Her raise netted her roughly $490 a month after taxes. She was spending more than she was earning in new income, and she hadn't noticed because each decision viewed individually was reasonable, defensible, even deserved. This is not a story about irresponsibility. It is a story about 2 completely different environments and what those environments do to the same human psychology when it encounters the same financial event. Robert's world in 1988 had no Instagram, no DoorDash, no Zillow, no algorithmic feed showing him the apartment his college friend just moved into, the car his coworker just leased, the restaurant his sister went to on Saturday. His social comparison radius was roughly the size of his office and his neighborhood. When he got a raise, the question his environment asked him was simple: do you need more? He looked around. His apartment worked. His car started. His life was fine. The answer was no. So the raise disappeared into the future. Lisa's world in 2022 is a comparison engine running 24 hours a day. Every platform she uses is optimized by design, by algorithm, by billions of dollars of behavioral research to show her the upper edge of what her peers are consuming. Not the median, the aspirational median, the slightly better version of the life she's already living. When Lisa got a raise, the question her environment asked her was constant and ambient. What are you waiting for? And the answer, for the first time, was nothing. So the raise disappeared into the present. The distance between those 2 decisions, Robert's 3% contribution increase and Lisa's apartment upgrade, is not a character gap. It is an environment gap, and over 30 years, it becomes a wealth gap of approximately $680,000. This episode is about how that number is built, why the environment matters more than the intention, and what Lisa can actually do about it, starting with the next raise she receives. Let's follow the money. Robert's 3% contribution increase at age 28 added $320 a month to his investment account. He never adjusted for it. He never stopped it. He simply let it run. At 8% average annual return over 30 years, $320 a month becomes like $431,000. That is before accounting for the raises he received in subsequent years, each of which he handled the same way, quietly increasing his contribution and leaving his lifestyle unchanged. If Robert repeated the same behavior with just 2 more raises over the next decade, contributing an additional $150 a month at 31 and another $200 a month at 34, his total additional retirement wealth from this one habit reaches approximately $680,000. He didn't become rich. He became the kind of person whose money was always slightly ahead of his lifestyle. That is a different thing, and it compounds differently. Now follow Lisa's money. Her raise netted $490 a month after taxes. Her lifestyle adjustments cost $780 a month. Within 90 days of her raise, she was running a monthly deficit of $290 relative to her pre-raise financial position. She didn't go into debt immediately. She had some cushion, but the cushion began to thin. More importantly, the floor of her expenses had risen permanently. Her new apartment cost $420 more per month. That was not a one-time purchase. That was a new baseline. Her car lease was not a splurge. It was a contract. 24 months of obligated spending that could not be unwound without penalty. Behavioral economists call this the ratchet effect. Consumption tends to move in one direction. When income rises, spending adjusts upward easily, naturally, almost automatically. When income falls, spending resists downward adjustment with significant psychological friction. Lisa didn't make a reckless decision. She made a series of ratchet clicks. And with each click, the floor rose and the ceiling stayed the same. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Economic Psychology found that among Americans who received salary increases of 10% or more, 67% reported spending the majority of the increase within 6 months. Only 14% reported investing the majority of the raise. That 14%, the ones who behaved like Robert, were not more financially sophisticated. They were not higher earners. The single strongest predictor of whether someone invested a raise, the study found, was whether they had automated the investment before the raise money appeared in their checking account. Visibility was the variable. If the money appeared in their account, it was spent. If it was redirected before it appeared, it was saved. Robert didn't have superior willpower. He had a contribution form he filled out on the Thursday afternoon he got the news, before the money ever touched his daily financial life. That form was worth $680,000. Here's the psychological layer that makes this story more complicated than it first appears. Lisa's lifestyle inflation was not irrational. It was, in many ways, a rational response to years of delayed gratification. Research on hedonic adaptation, the well-documented tendency for humans to return to a stable baseline of happiness, regardless of positive or negative changes, suggests that the emotional payoff of a nicer apartment or a better car is real but temporary. Within 3 to 6 months, the upgrade becomes the new normal. The pleasure fades, the cost remains. Lisa felt genuinely happier in her new apartment for about 4 months. Then it was just where she lived. The upgrade cost her $420 a month, every month, for as long as she lives there. The happiness it produced lasted 1 quarter. This is not a moral failure. It is how human psychology works. It is how the hedonic treadmill functions. And it is also, not coincidentally, how consumer markets are designed to function. The apartment complex did not advertise the long-term emotional depreciation of their amenities. The car dealership did not include a chart showing how quickly the excitement of a new vehicle returns to the baseline. Robert, in 1988, wasn't wise enough to know about hedonic adaptation. He'd never heard the term. He just didn't have a feed showing him what he was missing. And in the absence of that feed, the default was to do nothing with the raise, which turned out to be financially exactly the right thing. Lisa cannot go back to 1988. She cannot uninstall the comparison engine. She cannot unsee the apartments or the cars or the dinners. She cannot make herself immune to the ambient social pressure that Robert simply never encountered. But she can do the one thing the research says actually works. She can make the decision before the money arrives. The single most effective intervention identified in behavioral finance research on savings behavior is what economists call automatic enrollment, the practice of directing money before it is ever experienced as available to spend. For Lisa, this means one thing. The next time she receives a raise, she increases her retirement contribution or automatic transfer before she touches anything else. Not after she figures out her new budget, not after she celebrates. Before. The window between receiving news of a raise and experiencing the money in your account is the most financially consequential window in most people's earning lives. Robert filled that window with a contribution form. Most people fill it with apartment searches. There is a second principle that changes the math for Lisa, and it requires no willpower at all. It is called the invisible raise. If Lisa's next raise is $5,000 a year, $417 a month before taxes, roughly $270 after, and she directs the entire after-tax amount into an index fund before her direct deposit is adjusted, she will never experience that money as income. She will not feel poorer. She will not feel the sacrifice of saving it. Her checking account will look the same as it always has. But in 30 years, that single invisible raise, $270 a month at 8% annual return, will be worth approximately $363,000. She doesn't have to undo the apartment. She doesn't have to sell the car. She doesn't have to rebuild her entire financial life from the beginning. She has to capture the next raise before the comparison engine tells her what to do with it. That's it. That's the whole game. This is what the Gen X blueprint got right. Not through discipline or wisdom, but through the luck of operating in an environment that didn't fight back. Robert's world didn't show him what he could be spending his raise on, so he put it somewhere quiet and forgot about it. Lisa's world shows her everything, constantly, with algorithmic precision calibrated to her exact aspirations and insecurities. That is not her fault, but it is her problem to solve. And the solution is not to become someone who doesn't want things. That's not a realistic ambition, and it's not a useful one. The solution is to build a structure that makes the right decision automatic, so that when the environment tells Lisa what to spend, the most important money has already left the room. Robert didn't build his retirement account through superior character. He built it through timing and through an environment that didn't make it hard to do the simple thing. Lisa doesn't have that environment, but she can build a version of that structure, and the next raise she receives is the exact moment to do it. One form, one redirect, one decision bullet before the comparison engine has a chance to weigh in. That decision, compounding quietly for 30 years, is worth more than any apartment upgrade she will ever make. If you recognized yourself somewhere in Lisa's story, if you've watched a raise disappear into a lifestyle that feels only slightly better than before, comment invisible raise below. And if you want to see what happens when Robert and Lisa reach 40, when the gap between their net worths starts moving faster than either of them expected, episode 5 is coming next week. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The raise is not the reward. The raise redirected quietly before you see it, is the foundation. Everything else is just noise.